Is anyone there? Oh, hi.
How's it, gamers? It's your boy Wotan. Before I get into this, I'm going to say I'll release Pixel Prattlings as an audio track as well, but you really should watch the vlog, because if not, then why am I gathering all this gaming footage of me being a casual shitter? Also, I promise the next one will be heavier on the memes and humor. Another year, another bunch of updates and opportunities missed on my part. However, contrary to the first sentence, this video is not a pity party. For the three of you keeping up to date with No Script Law and my life, you'll know that I started this Pixel Prattling series as a form of vlog, partially to discuss more of the things I wanted to discuss in more long form, partially because I always said hobbies should be fun. At the end of the year, I tried to release some sort of introspective or retrospective vlog concerning my views on a few key things I'm willing to reveal in my personal life, as well as commenting on internet culture. Ironically, despite being out of the country for the most part of 2 years, one of the first things I want to comment on is South Africa and sort of Sappho internet culture, or Twitter, or both, I suppose, really. I live in Florida, and we've been hit by multiple hurricanes, storms, and a cold snap, and I've yet to be even an hour without utilities. Now that I'm done with that flex, let's go to the actual issues. Starting with the most minimal, I know I've said it before, but it is kind of a storm in a teacup how many of the things I used to think were so major before seem so minuscule outside looking in. Now, pivoting to Sappho internet culture, I'd like to take a moment to sort of take a high-level review of the various Twitter accounts and podcasts, etc. I know for the longest time there was much mud slung at the whole white guys having a podcast craze or pod bros. I never really saw their existence as an issue. What I will criticize is that many of the popular shows and accounts I saw back in the day are still harping on essentially about the same 2016 to 2020 talking points. They're essentially the EA Games annual FIFA update flavor of creator content, and it sucks to see that. Or worse yet, in some select cases, some Twitter accounts have devolved into some genuinely deranged and bigoted versions of themselves in the name of having to go further to experience the same high. There are some wonderful exceptions, and a few of them are Chris Wyatt, The Man Petra Show, and of course my boy Conscious Caracal. In Conscious Caracal's case, he's really avoided the trap of being a content slave to his audience. One great example is all the work he put in his Culture series, documenting all the different cultures in South Africa. Man deserves an honorary fucking anthropology degree for that shit. And before you say it, yes, I am taking an entire chunk of my vlog's time to dick ride one of my best mates. Deal with it. On the American side, much of what people think is a big deal in domestic American politics is really just a storm in a teacup too. In the USA, this is down to some remnants of their well-crafted constitution, separation of powers, and federalism clinging to life. And thank God for that. When you head down to the supermarket or local pub, you get much more of a realistic view of what people actually care about. This is why it may seem perplexing for someone outside in looking in why more citizens aren't up in arms about certain events and policies. There's just a certain level of firewall between them and what people outside the USA see. In terms of general, one of the big things I wanted to comment on was the advent and the effective end of the pandemic and the Twitter files. I use the term effective because for some people it is more over than others, depending on what part of the world you live in. First, let me say this. The pandemic was always real. The response of different groups, including governments, was the fake bit. Some of it stemmed from genuine misunderstanding, some from incompetence, some from a naked desire for power. I believe the truth coming out about censorship and various medical measures is generally a good thing. One major downside I will point out is that being right about a couple of admittedly big things, which everyone was suspicious about, has given undue credence to many genuine conspiracy theorist loons out there. Let me say this. Yes, the Earth is a sphere, albeit a little gravitationally and tidally deformed. Yes, we went to the moon. Yes, nuclear weapons are real, as are HIV and AIDS. That should cover most of the bases. I go into more of this in the main series episode that will be releasing alongside this episode. My point here is that there are nefarious entities which conspire, but they are nowhere near as wacky as some of your favorite bad science and logic YouTube senpais may have you believe. Truth is stranger than fiction, as they say. As for the Twitter files, again, I'm going to point out that they kind of have this value of internal versus external value aspects, which I go into again in more detail on the main series episode releasing somewhere alongside this. Finally, the biggest thing while I'm here that's surprised me about American culture is so far what I call the paradox of individualism. For some context, this year I did the whole solo stay at home for the holidays thing, and when I told people about this, they seemed horrified. This was, well, surprising to me, largely because of what I perceive to be the American spirit of rugged individualism. When I think of the American people, I think of the brave solo explorer manifesting destiny across the unknown and all that jazz. So chilling on your own in your place for a while should be no problem to them. Yet, when I mentioned it, they reacted as if I had, uttered something that was like a complete anathema to them. I understand the counter-argument here, that people I told were having said reaction because they didn't specifically want me to spend the holidays alone. I was just thrown off by how visceral the reaction was. I did have a ton of games and other entertainment, a backlog which, at the time of this recording, I still have yet to get through. I will say this. I think this is a great example of one of my favorite quotes concerning the themes of solitude versus being alone. I believe it was Blaise Pascal who said, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." So, if you're lonely this holiday season, I feel you. Few people know the pain of being lonely, left out, and picked last, if picked at all, quite like me. I hope you find purpose. It will get better. On the other hand, if you're enjoying your solitude, keep on keeping on. Good luck and stay safe out there. Be awesome to each other. It's a nice intro.